Hey guys, welcome back to Stability WOD. I'm here with my friend and longtime client, Katie. Probably longer time client that she would like to be, but she's a triathlete and she rides and swims and runs millions of miles every year. So there's a certain amount of maintenance that takes to be able to do that. We talked in her session today about this pain pattern that she's developed just this week on her left side. It kind of goes from her back up through her shoulder, affects her rotator cuff, and up into her neck. So I thought this was a perfect time to share with you guys one of my favorite activation strategies for the low trap, corrective exercises for the low trap. Let me share with you how we got there. So her upper first ribs, and I made a video about the first rib and how to self-correct that a few weeks ago. Her first ribs were both elevated, probably because of her high training volume and a few little movement faults that came up because of fatigue. And the first thing I did was mobilize her first ribs so that she had better power coming from her neck out into her arms. She wasn't over-relying on certain muscles and underusing other muscles. And the idea is that that's going to calm down the pain pattern. She then asked me, what do I do now? I'm going to go to the gym. Should I do pull-ups? Should I do rows? And what you learned in the anatomy lesson the last couple of days is that when you're pulling to your side, the traps and the rhomboids pull the shoulder blades toward the spine. That's their one job. Their other job, though, sometimes their more important job, if you're a CrossFitter or triathlete, is to position the shoulder blades when you're overhead so that the shoulder blades can rotate upward. And that's a totally different job. The low trap and the rhomboids do opposite things in that case. So I showed her this corrective exercise to help her activate, turn back on her low traps. And this is tricky because for most athletes, it's not a strength problem. It's more of an awareness, body awareness problem. And that's what we discovered as I was teaching Katie this exercise. I'm going to show you how I taught this to her, and then we'll talk about the prescription. So Katie, if you face the wall, first thing she's going to do is a good morning, which is basically a bow, as if you're in Japan. Butt goes back, shoulders go forward, but the spine is really straight, the head's in a neutral position. Then she's going to take her arms and she's going to bring them up into a Y position, overhead with her arms locked. Now the first thing I see in a lot of people is they're over-firing their upper traps, these neck muscles. They're using them too much, they're almost shrugging, and that means by default they're underusing their low traps. And I like to describe a sort of a 50-50 split. A lot of athletes are in more like an 80-20 split, where this is under-firing, this is super tight, super strained. Take a break for a second. Now, one of the first things that happens when I cue people to relax their neck, to relax their upper traps, go ahead up there again, Katie, butt back. I say, Katie, relax your upper traps. The first thing they do is they bring their arms down and they bend their elbows. And it's important to disassociate the movement of your shoulder blade, and it's wanting to rotate up and relax from the movement of your arm. The arm should be able to stay up, and the shoulder blade should be able to come down at the same time, as opposed to them going together. And that's a really important feeling in your body that you have to develop. So we'll go back up to the Y position. I'm going to say, Katie, relax your neck, relax your upper traps. By default, as soon as she softens these muscles up, low trap is firing like crazy. And Katie, maybe you can feel that in your mid-back, like burning, firing. So the feedback is if you feel this V coming down to your low back, you're doing it right. If I feel relaxation here, I can feel confident that this is working well. Relax for a second. It gets pretty tiring though, doesn't it? So Katie's infraspinatus is something I needled today. It was really overworked, partly because of that upper rib, partly because her upper traps were dominating and her rotator cuff was having a hard time doing its job. So coming up again, Katie. The other cue I like to encourage is to take the arm and externally rotate it so the thumbs point back. And you kind of externally rotate to screw the shoulder in as far as you can. For a lot of people, internally rotating means shrugging. Externally rotating means relaxing. So if she externally rotates, she intentionally relaxes her neck. That's going to turn her lats off. And in swimmers, triathletes, the lats are on a lot. They're hyper facilitated. We want to get that to soften, and we want the low trap to fire. Relax. So that's really tiring, right, Katie? Holding that for like 20, 30 seconds. So the prescription is 5-second hold, get there, find the position. Once you get the position, hold it 5 seconds. Then relax, stand up. I want you to do 10 to 15 reps, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just to activate that muscle. Now, ultimately, I want this feeling in her body. Come on back into the center, don't be scared. I want her to feel this this awareness in her body when she's on her bike in her aero bars, so she doesn't end up riding like this, especially when she's going hard. I want her to be able to be aware enough that this is the position she's in as her arms are up on the pads. I want her to be aware enough that as she clears her arm in the water, she's not defaulting to shrugging, overusing her upper traps as she comes through to enter the water, but rather as she comes through, she can relax her upper trap and neck and rely more on her mid-back, low trap muscles to clear her arm. And again, this isn't a strength problem for most swimmers. This is like an awareness problem. And Katie, luckily, is very body aware. She's going to get in the pool, and she's going to figure this out like in the first 100 yards. So, Katie, thanks for being the subject today. You guys, thanks for tuning in. I have a lot more to share about the shoulder. If you like what you saw today, please click the like button. I hope you'll leave comments below, and take a second to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. See you tomorrow.